The biggest mistake most people make isn't being weak, it's being nice. And before you disagree, think about it. Some of the most intelligent people you'll ever meet spend their entire lives being overlooked, ignored, and quietly manipulated, not because they lack talent, but because they've been taught that being liked is the same thing as being respected. It isn't. In fact, the people who seem to have the most influence in any room are often not the smartest, the kindest, or even the hardest working. They're simply the ones who understand human psychology better than everyone else. Here's something most people never realize. The moment you become predictable, you become controllable. And nice people are often the most predictable people in the room. They explain too much, apologize too quickly, reveal their intentions too early, and hand over leverage without even noticing they're doing it. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you lost ground, even though you were technically right? Have you ever watched someone command respect without raising their voice, without arguing, without trying to impress anyone? What exactly were they doing differently? That's what we're about to uncover, because the truth is uncomfortable. Many behaviors you've been taught to see as kindness are actually fear wearing a respectable mask. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of disappointing people, fear of being misunderstood. And the people who understand this dynamic can use it against you every single day. This is why two people can enter the same room with the same intelligence, the same qualifications, and the same opportunities, yet one leaves with influence, and the other leaves seeking approval. The difference isn't confidence. The difference is strategy. Now, this video is not about becoming cold. It's not about manipulation, and it's definitely not about turning into an arrogant person who treats everyone badly. It's about understanding the hidden psychological rules that govern power, respect, and influence. Rules that most people never learn. Rules that Machiavelli understood centuries ago. Because power has never responded to good intentions. It responds to perception, to timing, to positioning. And once you understand those three things, social dynamics begin to look completely different. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you 7 psychological shifts that can completely change the way people respond to you. 7 strategic upgrades that help you stop seeking approval and start creating influence. 7 mindset changes that separate those who are merely liked from those who are genuinely respected. And by the end of this video, you'll never look at being nice the same way again. Number 1, stop seeking psychological safety. Most men will never admit this, not because they don't know it's true, but because the truth hurts too much. They're not afraid of failure, they're afraid of tension. They're afraid of that split second when a room goes quiet after they say what they really think. They're afraid of disappointing someone, of being judged, of being disliked. So they spend years building a personality designed to avoid friction, and then they wonder why nobody takes them seriously. Look closely at your own life. How many times have you swallowed a thought that needed to be said? How many times have you laughed at something that actually irritated you? How many times have you watched someone disrespect your boundaries and told yourself, "It's not worth the argument"? That's not maturity. That's fear wearing a suit and pretending to be wisdom. And here's the brutal part, the people around you can feel it. Not consciously, but they feel it. Humans are remarkably good at detecting who is willing to create discomfort and who is desperate to avoid it. The man who fears tension becomes predictable, and predictable men become manageable. Think about the workplace. There's always that guy who works hard, stays polite, helps everyone, never causes problems. Everyone likes him. But somehow he keeps getting overlooked. And there's another guy, less agreeable, less available, less concerned with being liked. He says no when necessary, challenges bad ideas, remains calm when pressure rises. And somehow people treat him differently, not because he's louder. Because he's harder to move. Most men spend their lives trying to reduce tension, but powerful men learn how to sit inside it. That's the difference. The moment a conversation becomes uncomfortable, watch what happens. People start leaking information. They start nervous laughing, over-explaining, apologizing, defending themselves before they've even been accused. It's almost automatic. Their discomfort starts negotiating on their behalf, and they don't even realize it. But the man who stays still, the man who doesn't rush to fill the silence, the man who doesn't immediately explain himself, he changes the entire psychological dynamic, because silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty commands attention. I learned this years ago watching a negotiation between two businessmen. One couldn't stop talking. Every objection made him explain more, defend more, justify more. The other barely spoke. He listened, paused, looked directly at him, and when he finally answered, it was one sentence. Guess who controlled the room? Not the man with the most words. The man who was most comfortable with discomfort. That's the hidden game nobody teaches you. Status is often determined by who can tolerate tension the longest without emotionally collapsing, not who talks the most, not who argues the best, not who is the nicest. So ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you stood your ground and allowed someone else to feel uncomfortable? When was the last time you said exactly what needed to be said without cushioning every edge? When was the last time you stopped managing everyone else's emotions and started protecting your own position? Because every time you sacrifice truth to maintain comfort, you're making a trade, short-term peace for long-term weakness. From this point forward, stop asking yourself, how do I keep this comfortable? Start asking, what outcome serves me best? That's not cruelty, that's not aggression, that's composure. And men who master composure become very difficult to manipulate. Because the moment you stop fearing tension, other people start respecting your presence. Number 2, detach from immediate approval. There is a hidden addiction that controls more men than alcohol, money, or pleasure ever could, the addiction to being approved of. Most men never notice it because it disguises itself as being a good guy, being agreeable, being reasonable, being easy to get along with. But underneath all of that is often something much darker, a fear of rejection, a fear of standing alone, a fear that if people stop approving of you, they'll stop valuing you. And that fear is expensive, because the moment your self-worth becomes dependent on other people's reactions, your behavior is no longer yours, it belongs to the room. Think about it, how many times have you had an opinion but changed it after seeing everyone else's reaction? How many times have you wanted to say no, but said yes because you didn't want to disappoint someone? How many times have you checked a face, a text message, a tone of voice, searching for signs of approval? Most men do this every day, not because they're weak, because they've been conditioned to seek acceptance before truth, comfort before conviction, belonging before self-respect. And here's what nobody tells you. The world quietly rewards men who don't need its approval. Not immediately, but eventually, because dependence creates predictability, and predictable men are easy to control. Once people discover what earns your compliance, they own a piece of you. Some men can be controlled with praise, others with attention, others with validation, others with the fear of being excluded. Different chains, same prison. I once watched a man destroy his own negotiating position in less than 5 minutes. Not because he lacked intelligence, because he needed to be liked. Every disagreement made him explain himself. Every objection made him seek understanding. Every moment of resistance made him chase agreement. By the end of the conversation, everyone liked him, and nobody respected him. That's the trade most men make without realizing it: approval now, influence later. The dangerous part is that approval feels good in the moment. It relieves pressure. It removes uncertainty. It gives your nervous system a quick reward, a small emotional hit, like a drug, a nod, a smile, a compliment, a positive reaction, and suddenly you're adjusting yourself to get the next one. That's when people stop meeting the real you. They start meeting the version you've designed for acceptance, the performance, the mask, the edited personality, the man who says what gets applause instead of what he actually believes. But authority is built differently. Authority requires a willingness to be misunderstood, a willingness to let people disagree, a willingness to let silence exist without rushing to repair your image. Because something interesting happens when you stop chasing validation, you become harder to move. You stop scanning faces, You stop measuring yourself through reactions. You stop negotiating your standards for temporary approval, and people feel it. Not because you announce it, but because your energy changes. You become calmer, less reactive, more grounded, more dangerous. The strongest man in the room is rarely the loudest. He's usually the one who remains unchanged whether he receives applause or criticism, because his position isn't rented from other people's opinions, it's owned. So ask yourself honestly, who would you be if approval was no longer available? What would you say? What would you stop tolerating? What decisions would you finally make? Because the day validation becomes optional is the day your freedom begins. Number 3. Shift from reaction to delay. Most men think speed is power. They think the fastest response wins, the fastest comeback, the fastest text reply, the fastest defense, the fastest explanation. But that's one of the biggest psychological traps you'll ever fall into, because when someone can predict exactly when you'll react, they already have influence over you. Read that again. The person controlling your reactions is quietly controlling you, and most men never notice it happening. Watch what happens when someone criticizes them. A message arrives, a disrespectful comment, a challenge, and instantly their nervous system takes over. Their fingers start moving, their emotions start talking, their ego rushes into battle before their mind has even entered the room. The response feels powerful, but it's actually exposure. You've just revealed your trigger. You've shown exactly where the hook is, exactly where the pressure point lies. And once people discover your pressure points, they can pull them whenever they want. This is why emotionally reactive men are so easy to manipulate, not because they're weak, but because they're readable, predictable, transparent. Every button has a guaranteed response. Every provocation gets immediate access to their attention. But powerful men operate differently. They understand something most people never learn. Tempo is power. The man who controls timing controls the frame. Think about the most intimidating people you've ever met. Not the loudest, not the most aggressive, but the ones whose presence changed the atmosphere. What did they have in common? They never seemed rushed, never desperate, never eager to prove anything. When they spoke, it felt deliberate. When they paused, people listened. When they stayed silent, the room leaned in, because silence creates psychological gravity, and gravity pulls attention. I remember watching a senior executive get challenged during a meeting. A younger guy attacked his decision in front of everyone. Most people would have jumped into defense mode, explained, argued, protected their image. He did none of that. He simply looked at the man, said nothing. 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. The silence became almost uncomfortable. Then he calmly asked one question. "Are you finished?" That was it. The entire room shifted, not because of what he said, but because of what he didn't do. He didn't react. He didn't flinch. He didn't flinch. He didn't surrender control of the tempo. Most men don't realize this. The first person who becomes emotionally urgent usually loses leverage. Urgency leaks need. Urgency leaks insecurity. Urgency leaks investment. The moment people feel they can rush you, pressure you, provoke you, or force immediate responses from you, they stop respecting your frame and start pulling you into theirs. That's why delay is so powerful. Not because it creates mystery, but because it creates choice. A pause separates emotion from strategy. It gives you space to observe what's really happening, the words, the tone, the intention behind the words, the hidden agenda underneath the conversation. And that changes everything. Because now you're no longer reacting to the surface, you're responding to the game underneath it. So ask yourself honestly, how many times have you sent the text too quickly? Answered too quickly? Defended yourself too quickly? Explained too quickly? How much leverage have you lost because you couldn't tolerate 10 seconds of uncertainty? Most men are addicted to immediate relief, but few men are disciplined enough to embrace strategic delay. Become one of them. The next time someone pressures you for an answer, pause. The next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. The next time your emotions demand an immediate response, pause. Because the pause is where power lives. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I control the tempo. Because when you stop reacting on impulse and start moving with intention, people stop pulling your strings. And for the first time, you're no longer following the rhythm. You're setting it. Number 4, redefine kindness as selective. This might be one of the most dangerous lies modern men have ever been taught, that being a good man means being available to everyone. Always understanding, always forgiving, always patient, always giving. Sounds noble, until you realize that the people who benefit most from unlimited access to your energy are often the people who value it the least. Think about that. The more available you become, the less valuable you appear. Not because people are evil, because human nature responds to scarcity. And scarcity creates respect. Most men spend years becoming emotional suppliers. They become the guy who is always there, always answering, always helping, always understanding, always giving second chances. Then one day they wake up exhausted, confused, and quietly resentful, because the same people they sacrificed for rarely show the same loyalty in return. You've probably lived this yourself. The friend who only calls when he needs something. The colleague who keeps dumping responsibilities on you. The woman who enjoys your attention, but never truly invests back. The family member who constantly crosses boundaries because they know you'll tolerate it. And every time it happens, you tell yourself you're being kind. But are you? Or are you simply afraid of withdrawing access? Because that's the uncomfortable truth most men avoid. Sometimes what looks like kindness is actually fear. Fear of disappointing people, fear of conflict, fear of being perceived as selfish, fear of losing approval. So you keep giving and giving and giving until your generosity becomes an expectation instead of a gift. That's when the dynamic changes. People stop appreciating what is always available, they start assuming it belongs to them. This is why selective generosity is powerful. Not because it manipulates people, because it creates standards. A man without standards eventually becomes a resource. A man with standards becomes a force. Watch how high-status men operate. They don't distribute their attention equally. They don't reward everyone the same. They don't offer unlimited access to their time. Their respect has requirements, their trust has requirements, their investment has requirements. Not because they're arrogant, because they understand something most people don't. What is earned is valued. What is free is often ignored. I once knew a man who spent years solving everyone's problems. Financial help, advice, connections, favors. Whenever someone called, he answered. Whenever someone needed support, he showed up. People praised him constantly. They called him generous. They called him generous. They called him selfless. Then one day he stopped. Not completely, just selectively. And something fascinating happened. The people who genuinely respected him stayed. The users disappeared. That's when he discovered who was loyal and who was simply consuming access. And that distinction changed his life. Most men never learn this lesson. They measure their value by how much they give, while powerful men measure their value by where they choose to invest. There's a difference. One creates dependency, the other creates respect. So ask yourself honestly, who currently has access to your energy that hasn't earned it? Who receives your attention but contributes nothing? Who keeps crossing lines because you've taught them there are no consequences? Those questions matter because every unnecessary obligation is quietly draining strength from your mission. From this point forward, stop making your kindness automatic, make it intentional. Reward loyalty, reward discipline, reward reciprocity, reward character. But when someone repeatedly disrespects your standards, don't argue, don't complain, don't announce your departure. Simply reduce access calmly, silently, completely. Because attention is currency, time is currency, energy is currency, and powerful men don't spend valuable currency without purpose. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My energy is earned. Because the moment people realize access to you is not guaranteed, your value rises, and when your value rises, so does your influence. Number 5, learn to withhold closure. This is one of the most misunderstood forms of power, because most people have been conditioned to believe that everything must be resolved immediately, every disagreement, every misunderstanding, every awkward silence, every unanswered question. They feel an almost compulsive need to explain, clarify, justify, and smooth everything over. But what if I told you that this urge has very little to do with communication and everything to do with insecurity? Think about it. Why do people over-explain? Why do they send the second text, the third text, the follow-up message that begins with, "Just to clarify what I meant"? Why do they keep talking long after their point has already landed? Because uncertainty makes them uncomfortable, and uncomfortable people expose themselves. You've probably done this before. You send a message, hours pass, no reply. Suddenly your mind starts creating stories. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe they're upset. Maybe I should explain further. Maybe I should explain further. Maybe I should send another message. And before you realize it, you're negotiating against yourself, trying to solve a problem that may not even exist. Most men don't lose leverage because they say the wrong thing. They lose leverage because they can't stop talking after they've already said enough. The silence begins to pressure them, so they rush to fill it, and every extra word weakens their position. Here's something most people never notice. The person who needs closure first usually holds less power, because need always reveals investment, and investment reveals vulnerability. Watch high-level operators closely. When they make a decision, they don't launch into a 20-minute defense of it. When challenged, they don't immediately provide a full psychological autobiography explaining their motives. When misunderstood, they don't panic. They trust time to do some of the work. Most men don't. Most men become lawyers for their own existence, constantly defending, constantly clarifying, constantly trying to control how every single person perceives them. And that's exhausting, because no matter how much you explain yourself, someone will still misunderstand you, someone will still disagree, someone will still create their own version of the story. The real power move is accepting that. I remember watching a business owner get questioned about a controversial decision. The entire room expected him to justify himself, to explain every detail, to defend his reasoning. Instead, he gave a short answer, calm, direct, unemotional. Then, he stopped talking. The room almost looked confused. People kept waiting for more explanation, more context, more reassurance. It never came. And strangely, his authority increased, because what people couldn't understand, they couldn't easily challenge. That's a principle most men miss. When everything about you is immediately available, immediately explained, immediately exposed, you become easy to categorize, easy to predict, easy to manage. But when there is space, when there is restraint, when there are unanswered questions, people continue thinking about you long after the interaction ends. Your words linger, your presence lingers, your decisions linger, not because you manipulated anyone, but because you didn't kill the tension too early. So ask yourself honestly, how many times have you ruined your own position by over-explaining? How many times have you chased clarity when what you were really chasing was reassurance? How many times have you tried to force understanding because you were secretly afraid of being misunderstood? That's the trap. Not every silence needs to be filled. Not every question deserves a detailed answer. And not every raised eyebrow requires an explanation. Sometimes the strongest response is a complete sentence followed by silence. Sometimes the strongest move is walking away before your insecurity starts talking. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I embrace mystery. Because the moment you stop chasing closure, something changes. People stop seeing a man who needs validation and start seeing a man who is comfortable letting uncertainty do the work for him. Number 6, evaluate every interaction as a power exchange. Here's a truth most people never see. They think conversations are about words. They're not. Conversations are about positioning. The words are just the surface. Beneath every interaction, there's another conversation happening. Silent, invisible, constant. A negotiation of status, a negotiation of attention, a negotiation of whose frame becomes reality. And the men who understand this move through life very differently from the men who don't. Most people enter a room focused on what they want to say. Powerful men enter a room focused on what is actually happening. Watch closely. Who is seeking approval? Who is trying to impress? Who is over-explaining? Who keeps laughing at things that aren't funny? Who is constantly adjusting themselves to make others comfortable? Those details reveal more than words ever will, because influence is rarely lost in one dramatic moment. It's lost in tiny unconscious concessions. One sentence, one apology, one unnecessary explanation, one laugh that wasn't genuine, one compromise made out of fear rather than conviction. Small moments, repeated thousands of times until a hierarchy forms. And here's the uncomfortable part. Most men participate in these exchanges without realizing it. Imagine two men meeting for coffee. One arrives trying to earn approval, the other arrives evaluating character. One is asking himself, how do I make this person like me? The other is asking, is this person worth my time? Completely different psychology, completely different outcome. One enters the interaction from below, the other enters as an equal, and people feel that immediately. Not consciously, but they feel it. Because humans are constantly measuring investment. Who wants this more? Who is chasing? Who is qualifying themselves? Who is trying harder to maintain the connection? The person investing disproportionately is usually surrendering leverage. I learned this years ago while watching successful businessmen network. The inexperienced guys talked nonstop. They sold themselves, explained themselves, and tried to sound impressive. The experienced guys did something else. They asked questions, observed, listened, and let other people reveal themselves. One group was trying to gain approval. The other was gathering information. That's a completely different game, and most men never realize they're playing the wrong one. Here's another layer. Pay attention to who occupies your mind after the interaction ends. Because power exchanges don't stop when the conversation does. Some people leave and take your focus with them. You replay what they said, wonder what they think, analyze their reactions, and seek their validation long after they're gone. Meanwhile, they're not thinking about you at all. That's not connection. That's imbalance. And imbalance always has a cost. The strongest men protect their attention the way wealthy men protect their money. They understand that focus is a resource, mental energy is a resource, attention is a resource, and anything that repeatedly drains those resources deserves to be examined. That's why awareness changes everything. Not paranoia. Awareness. There's a difference. You're not entering conversations looking for enemies. You're entering them with your eyes open. Watching, measuring, understanding. Who respects your time? Who reciprocates effort? Who consistently takes more than they contribute? Who earns access? Who simply assumes it? These questions reveal more about people than their words ever will. Because every interaction leaves a footprint. Every interaction teaches people how to treat you. Every interaction either strengthens your frame or weakens it. So stop walking into conversations on autopilot. Start seeing them for what they are, small negotiations happening in real time. Not negotiations of dominance, but negotiations of value, of attention, of investment, of respect. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I observe before I invest. Because the moment you stop blindly participating in power exchanges and start consciously reading them, something shifts. You stop being influenced by every room you enter, and slowly, without force, without noise, without announcing it, you become the man who influences the room instead. Number 7. Design your reputation intentionally. Most men have no idea that they are building a reputation every single day. Not when they achieve something big, not when they post online, and not when they're being watched. Every day, in ordinary moments, in small reactions, in casual conversations, in the way they respond under pressure, in the standards they enforce, and especially in the standards they tolerate. The brutal reality: if you don't consciously create your reputation, other people will create one for you. And once a label sticks, people stop seeing who you are. They start seeing who they think you are. That's how power works. Not through reality, but through perception. Think about the men you've respected most throughout your life. Maybe a mentor, a businessman, a leader, maybe even a father figure. Chances are, you respected them long before you knew much about them. Why? Because reputation arrived before information. Their image entered the room before they did. And that's exactly what most men fail to understand. Your reputation is your invisible representative. It speaks before you speak. It negotiates before you negotiate. It influences people before you've even opened your mouth. The problem is that most men live reactively. They walk through life hoping people understand who they really are, but the world doesn't work that way. People don't judge intentions. They judge patterns. They judge repeated behavior. They judge what they consistently observe. And that observation becomes your identity in their minds. I learned this years ago watching two men with almost identical levels of competence. One was constantly proving himself, explaining himself, defending himself, trying to convince people of his value. The other rarely did any of that, yet somehow he commanded more respect. The difference wasn't skill, it was reputation. One had trained people to question him, while the other had trained people to trust him. And both reputations were self-created, whether intentionally or not. That's the part most people miss. Every reaction is a vote. Every decision is a vote. Every boundary is a vote. Every compromise is a vote. You're constantly casting ballots for the identity you're building. The question is, what are you voting for? Because if you're constantly tolerating disrespect, you're teaching people you're easy to test. If you're constantly chasing approval, you're teaching people your confidence depends on their acceptance. If you're constantly emotional under pressure, you're teaching people exactly where your weaknesses lie. People are always studying you, even when they don't realize they're studying you. The room remembers. The room always remembers. That's why discipline matters. Not for motivation, for consistency. Anyone can appear strong once. Anyone can appear confident once. Anyone can set a boundary once. But reputation is built when the behavior repeats. Again and again and again, until people stop questioning whether that's who you are and start accepting it as fact. And something interesting happens. You no longer need to constantly defend yourself. You no longer need to explain your standards. You no longer need to announce your value. Your reputation starts doing the work for you. People adjust before you arrive. They think twice before crossing lines. They calculate differently. Not because they fear you, but because they know what happens when your standards are tested. That is real influence, not attention. Not popularity, influence. So let me ask you one final question. If someone described you in 3 words right now, what would they say? And more importantly, is that reputation helping your future or sabotaging it? Because whether you realize it or not, you're already building one. The only question is whether you're building it by design or by default. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I shape perception. Because the men who control their reputation eventually control the way the world responds to them. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I shape perception. Because whether you realize it or not, perception is already shaping your life. Every opportunity, every relationship, every negotiation, every room you enter, people are responding not only to who you are, but to who they believe you are. And that's exactly why everything we've discussed today matters. Think about what you've just uncovered. Most men spend their entire lives trying to become stronger without ever understanding the invisible game being played around them. They focus on skills, money, status, knowledge, yet they remain frustrated because they never learn the rules governing perception, the rules governing influence, the rules governing human behavior. And the harsh truth is this: the world rarely rewards intention, it rewards positioning. You have just gone through 7 psychological shifts that separate men who react from men who direct. Men who seek approval from men who direct. Men who seek approval from men who command respect. Men who are managed by circumstances from men who shape circumstances. You moved from comfort seeking to tension tolerance, from validation addiction to internal alignment, from emotional reaction to controlled timing, from unlimited access to selective investment, from compulsive explanation to strategic restraint, from unconscious participation to conscious observation. and from accidental reputation to deliberate influence. But here's the uncomfortable reality. None of this information will change your life, not by itself. Because knowledge has created more spectators than leaders. Most men love hearing uncomfortable truths. Very few men are willing to embody them. Tomorrow morning, you'll wake up and life will test you. Someone will challenge you. Someone will pressure you. Someone will pressure you. The need to explain, the need to be liked, the need to respond immediately, the need to keep everyone comfortable. And in that moment, you'll discover whether this was entertainment or transformation. Because transformation doesn't happen when you understand something. Transformation happens when your behavior changes under pressure. That's the difference. Anybody can sound wise in a calm environment. Anybody can talk about standards when nothing is being tested. Anybody can discuss discipline when sacrifice isn't required. The real test comes when discomfort arrives, when tension enters the room, when silence becomes awkward, when approval disappears, when misunderstanding becomes possible. That's where your new identity is either built or abandoned. And here's the part most people never hear. You do not become respected when you demand respect. You become respected when your behavior makes disrespect expensive. You do not become influential when you chase influence. You become influential when your presence changes the behavior of people around you. And you do not become powerful because you control others. You become powerful because you finally stop allowing others to control you. That's the game. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The men who move through life strategically understand something the average person never will. Power is rarely loud. Authority is rarely emotional. Influence is rarely obvious. The strongest position in the room often belongs to the man who needs the least from the room. Remember that. Because the moment you stop acting nice out of fear and start moving with intention, the entire dynamic changes. People notice, people adjust, people respond differently. Not because you announced a new version of yourself, because your behavior quietly revealed it. If this video challenged the way you think, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with another man who needs to hear this message. And remember, stop acting nice to survive. Start playing smart to lead.